The American dream. The American dream is often associated with immigration. For years, the dream of prosperity and freedom has driven immigrants to the United States. America is viewed as the land of opportunity, and immigrants from all over the world have settled in the U.S. with dreams of a fresh start and a new life. By the 1900s, the promise of the American dream had begun to attract large numbers of immigrants looking for work in large cities. With hard work and determination, immigrants hoped to escape the class boundaries of their home countries. The Industrial Revolution helped shape the American dream by creating thousands of jobs. The development of big business, the Transcontinental Railroad, and the increase in oil production improved the American standard of living. Rags to riches stories of business tycoons led to the belief that if you had intelligence and a willingness to work hard, you were likely to live a successful life. When people think of the American dream, they think of a successful and satisfying life. The term usually implies financial security and material comfort, but can also mean living a fulfilling life. It is said that James Truslow Adams coined the term American dream in his book The Epic of America. However, Truslow's coinage of the phrase had a broader meaning. The American dream is that dream of a land in which life should be better and richer and fuller for everyone, with opportunity for each according to ability or achievement. It is not a dream of motor cars and high wages merely, but a dream of social order in which each man and each woman shall be able to attain to the fullest stature of which they are innately capable, and be recognized by others for what they are, regardless of the fortuitous circumstances of birth or position. How do you achieve the American dream? That answer depends upon your personal definition of the term. Luckily for us, living in America, the land of opportunity, there are many dreams to choose from. A melting pot. The term melting pot is strongly associated with the United States. The U.S. is a melting pot of people from different cultures and races. Throughout the U.S., you will notice differences in the way people live, eat, and even talk. While American English is generally standard, American speech can differ according to what part of the country you are in. Certain traits and personalities are also connected with certain regions. Westerners are known as the least traditional of Americans and the most tolerant of change and differences. Midwesterners are known for being honest, straightforward people of traditional values. The Southwest has had the least influence by European immigrants. Much of its culture has been defined by Native Americans and by the Spanish. Southerners are probably the most distinctive of all American regional groups, with more relaxed attitudes and traditional ways than their neighbors to the north. They are known for their hospitality. The Northeast is well known for its culture, with excellent theaters and museums. It is also regarded for its educational system, with some of the most highly rated and respected universities in the country. This region is also known for its large mix of ethnic groups. Every time we speak, we say volumes about where we are from, the neutral tones of the Midwest, the rapid speech of New York City, the long drawl that characterizes the South. If you say a certain word or phrase, people will most likely be able to guess where you are from. The American cowboy. The central character of America's colorful ranching heritage is the cowboy. The American cowboy has played an important part in American culture and history. The cowboy influence is embedded in stories, songs, legends, movies, art, and fashion. Although the cowboy is generally considered an American icon, the traditional cowboy actually comes from a Hispanic tradition, which originated in central Mexico, known as charro. At the end of the Civil War, Many soldiers had no home and no place to go. They started drifting to the west. Cowboys roamed and worked throughout the Wild West. Too many. This term means guns, cattle, horses, and gunfights. It was a rugged country with few amenities and a lot of danger. The Western territories were appealing to the adventurous, and they were open and untamed. Many of these men only owned what they could carry on horseback. Ranchers hired these hard-working men as ranch hands. The ranch hands tended to the herd and did work around the ranch. When the time came to sell the beef, the ranch hands would round up the herd from the open prairie and drive the cattle miles to market. Popular stories about the cowboys depicted them as rustlers or professional gunfighters. While this is true in some cases, the average American cowboy was often lonely, lived in harsh conditions, and was frequently exposed to danger. Despite this, the cowboys always kept their sense of humor and joked about everything. They did not make much money and enjoyed the simple way of life. Tough as nails, but generous and hospitable. These were the true Wild West American cowboys. The cowboy was the embodiment of rugged independence. Some names you might be familiar with are Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Buffalo Bill, Billy the Kid, Wyatt Earp, and Doc Holliday. Many of these cowboys became legends in real life and later legends of the silver screen. They rode horses. They sang songs. Their horses did tricks and their guns were shiny. They became American heroes. Modern working cowboys. Being a cowboy is certainly not a thing of the past. Throughout the U.S., you will find cowboys working on ranches and farms. The exact number of working cowboys is unknown. Cowboys are responsible for feeding the livestock, branding cattle and horses, and tending to injuries. They also move the livestock to different pasture locations or herd them into corrals. In addition, cowboys repair fences, maintain ranch equipment, and perform other odd jobs around the ranch. And last, but not least, the cowgirl. The history of women in the West is not as well documented as that of men. However, in recent years, companies have dedicated time and money to researching the cowgirl tradition. The National Cowgirl Museum and Hall of Fame has made great efforts to document the history of cowgirls. American jazz. Jazz is considered the most significant, influential, and innovative music to emerge from the United States. New Orleans, Louisiana, is widely known as the birthplace of jazz. Jazz can make the listener feel happy or sad, mellow or energetic. Jazz can sound loud or soft. Performers of jazz improvise and create music as they play. Jazz has its roots in the 19th century. In the late 1880s, African Americans began to develop new forms of music. They created blues music from the gospel music and sad songs of their years in slavery. From the blues came the first true jazz music. This happened during the early 1900s in Louisiana. Classic, traditional, or Dixieland jazz came out of the music originating in New Orleans. During the 1920s, jazz continued to gain popularity. Louis Armstrong became famous for his performances on the trumpet and for his unusual voice. Louis Armstrong became one of the most influential and loved U.S. jazz musicians. Historians call the 1920s the golden age of American jazz. As time passed, a jazz form called swing became very popular in America. People danced to swing music until after World War II. Benny Goodman led one of America's most successful swing bands. People called Goodman the King of Swing. Goodman also presented black and white jazz musicians, playing together for the first time. After World War II, swing jazz became less popular. Americans began to listen to different sounds. One was bebop. Young musicians had created bebop in the 1940s, and it gained popularity slowly over the years. The music seemed harshly different to the ears of the public. Bebop appeared to sound racing, nervous, and often fragmented. Nevertheless, bebop was an exciting and beautiful revolution in the art of jazz. In the 1950s, cool jazz became popular. Cool jazz instruments sound softer than in bebop, and the rhythm is more even. With cool jazz came many new listeners. People went to jazz clubs and bought jazz recordings. The introduction of the long-playing record also helped the music become more popular. In the 1960s, a new kind of music, rock and roll, grew very popular in the U.S. People throughout the world listened to the rock music of Elvis Presley and the Beatles. This new music cut into the popularity of jazz. In the 1980s, trumpet player Wynton Marsalis helped lead a return to more traditional jazz. This mainstream jazz borrows sounds from swing, bebop, and cool jazz. Marsalis is one of the most well-known and praised jazz musicians. Today, jazz musicians play all types of music. Jazz can sound like swing or bebop. It can sound like rock and roll. It can sound like American Western music. It can sound like the music of several nations and ethnic groups. Or it can sound traditional. With so many options to choose from, people of all ages and all walks of life can find enjoyment and an appreciation for American jazz.
Recuerda, suscribirte al canal y darle like al video. Y recuerda que es fácil aprender inglés, es fácil hablarlo, es lo más fácil que puedes aprender si sigues viendo estos videos.